Morning, everybody. It's 9 o'clock, and as I had said in our email, everybody but me and Elaine and Bobby are on mute right now. A couple of housekeeping issues. We're going to, Bobby is going to talk for a bit, Elaine's going to talk about a bit, and then we're going to open it up for questions. Two ways you can ask a question. Down at the bottom of your screen is a chat. You can hit the chat, or if you go over your participants button, you'll see a raise your hand, or it's a 3 dots on your iPhone screen. You can raise your hand and you'll pop up and I'll unmute you to ask the question. Please be brief. This thing is going to shut off at 9:40. Very so let's get moving. A couple of things I did want to say at the get-go. First, we're going to miss Amazing Wings food this morning, so hopefully you're having something good, and we look forward to going back there. The other thing I want to remind everybody, and we're going to put it in the chat, Barbara Clear is going to do it. It is highly recommended, if you haven't already, vote for the May election by absentee. Like I said, we're going to put the link in there to how to order your absentee ballots for the May elections. And then also we are going to put a link in there, our caucus and our conventions coming up. They're all going to be done online. So you don't even have to leave your home in order to be a delegate to the 2nd or the 3rd Congressional District Convention. We're looking for 50 spots or so in the 3rd. We're looking for 20-25 in the 2nd. So please sign up to be a delegate so Norfolk's voice will be heard in its entirety. So with that said, we're off, and hello, Channel 3 News. So everybody on their best behavior. I know you will be, Channel 3 watching. So with that, Congressman Scott, take it away.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Charlie, for organizing this. We missed the monthly breakfast and look forward to it resuming. We've been hard at work, and I'm chair of the Education and Labor Committee, and one of the things that has happened is most of the legislation that's been going through has at some point gone through the Education and Labor Committee. Can somebody mute their phone? Somebody's moving their phone around. There you go. The Education and Labor Committee has education, healthcare, and worker situations, and so a lot of the stuff has been going through the Education and Labor Committee. We've been focusing on the first bill was making sure the agencies were fully funded. The second was making sure the sick could be taken care of. And the third was dealing with the financial crisis that we're dealing with. And Democrats have been very much in the forefront. As chair of the Education and Labor Committee, one of the things I've been looking at is the impact on education. The first bill had money for school children who are out of school, making sure that the school lunch program could continue like it does during the summer, so that the school children could be fed. We started off with a family and medical leave provision, but unfortunately, the Republicans forced us to take the family part out, and it's only just leave if you're sick. One of the things that Democrats have been focused on, and we made a little progress, but not a lot, is the impact on elections. You know, the Republican governor canceled the Democratic primary in Ohio at the last minute. We don't want the November election to be canceled at the last minute. We can prepare for it. If the election system is prepared for voting by mail, early voting, so everybody's not there at the same time, maybe longer hours, maybe an additional day. There are a lot of things we can do to make sure the election can take place. But if we don't do it up front, we're going to find that at the last minute, the election may be canceled. We want to make sure that we're ready and don't have to suffer that indignity. So, Charlie, thank you for bringing us together. I look forward to any questions that they may have.
All right. Thank you, Bobby. Elaine?
Hi, good morning, everybody. It's good to see all the faces. I can scroll across the screen and see about 9 of you at a time. So thanks for taking the time to join, and also the folks who are with us on the phone. Bobby gave the quick summary of all the big objectives of the legislation that we've passed. I would say that our phones are on. We have been taking questions from small business owners, from healthcare professionals, talking to local elected officials all across the district, from the sheriff in Accomack County to the county board of supervisors in York County and everywhere in between. Really trying to figure out as we move forward with a potential fourth package, what the things are in this legislation that can be improved on. Understand and have heard directly from numerous people the personal financial impact that this has had, and the provisions in the CARES Act provide for increased unemployment, additional $600 on top of the state unemployment benefits, provide a lot of good provisions to help small businesses through the Paycheck Protection Program, but understanding from small businesses that that's not a solution that's going to work for everyone. And the guidance on that is still being promulgated. So working with a lot of small businesses who are trying to figure out if they're eligible for that, how they can apply, and if their lending institution will be participating. There are a lot of things as well, mortgage forbearance. The governor with State Corporation Commission has said that no utilities will be disconnected for late payment, no fines or fees for paying electric bills late. There's a moratorium on evictions. There's a whole host of things that I think combined and depending on the individual situations can be very helpful. As far as the individual stimulus payments that people should expect to receive, getting continuous updates on those, and some good news that if anyone who's listening or knows anyone in their family or neighbors who their direct source of income is through Social Security. And I know Bobby participated in sending a letter and making sure that this came through, is that no additional action is required on behalf of people whose sole source of income is Social Security and would not have submitted a tax return in 2018 or 2019. So trying to make sure that people receive that benefit and they can receive it smoothly and quickly. But what I would say is that if anyone has any questions, and I know Bobby's staff is standing by as well to help with this, please reach out to our office. We collated all of these resources, things from the IRS, Treasury, Small Business Administration, Veterans Affairs, all the groups, that have applicable information about the programs that are available into one convenient place on our House website. So that's luria.house.gov. And there's at least a dozen links there to all of the information, frequently asked questions, and we're updating that regularly as information comes in. We have dealt with small business owners who have particular circumstances and trying to work through the process with them to help them be able to apply for these benefits. And would be remiss if I didn't wrap up by saying, thank you to everyone out there on the front lines who is, really helping in this circumstance. The healthcare workers who day after day are putting themselves at risk. We know very well about the shortage of PPE and the challenges that people are having. And then everyone out there in, frontline jobs who's still interfacing with the public, whether it's driving a bus or a cashier or just everybody who's just really keeping the essential needs for people going. We greatly appreciate, the fact that you're putting yourselves at risk by doing that and helping our community keep going. And I think I speak with Bobby in saying that, our goal on the other side of this is first and foremost to get through the public health crisis with the least amount of casualties and the best medical care available for people across the community and the Commonwealth, and then also to be able to pick back up again and give people the opportunities to be financially sound moving forward after we get through this crisis. So I'll stop there, and I know, Charlie, you're going to let people ask questions.
Okay, so as I said, I see we have a couple of people who have raised their hands. Find the chat bar to enter the question there, or hit that raise your hand. And with that, Tim Rothgeb, I am going to unmute you to ask your question.
Thank you, Charlie. It's more of a suggestion than a question. I know that I've mentioned to both Bobby and to Elaine the idea of tax credits for voting. I feel this may be an opportunity to get something like that in, at least for this coming election in November. We could do tax credits for voting by mail, or not voting in person, or however you want to phrase that. I would also take the opportunity to do what the Republicans quite often do, which is to slip it in to extend it out for future elections and
Okay.
make it not for voting, but maybe this could be a
All right.
first step.
Okay. Thanks, Tim.
Okay. You're welcome.
We're trying to avoid voter suppression. Those kinds of things would be an offense. We're more in defense right now, trying to preserve the election we have. One of the things that we could do right now is to make sure that we extend early voting. Virginia is going to be doing that anyway by virtue of assuming the governor signs the bills. We assumed he would now, but with all the stuff going on, he's got to review all the bills kind of de novo. But the election officials, if they're going to mail out applications, need additional money just for postage. There's a lot of expense that's going to take place in trying to hold these elections the best they can right now. The essential fine for not voting or a benefit for voting, those are things that I think we should consider. But right now we're scrambling just to be able to hold an election at all.
All right. Elaine, you want to offer? We'll move on to this next question.
I think Bobby's got it. We can move on. Thanks.
Okay. Scott Harris, you are unmuted.
Hello, y'all. I'm curious as to the unemployment, the additional $600 in unemployment. Is that something that's going to be something you have to do in addition to filing? Because my job is a seasonal unemployment opportunity, and we take it, most of us. So, you know, is that something we're going to have to do something to receive, or will that just automatically appear when you file for a week that you're eligible for? That's the first question.
Right. Go
go
ahead,
ahead.
Elaine. Well, okay.
Well, it is an additional $600 provided by the federal government, but it'll be funded through the state and through the normal process through the Virginia Employment Commission when you file your claim. So once those payments go into effect, I know at the state level, the VEC is still waiting on the actual receipt of the funds to disperse them. But the process in filing for unemployment will be the normal process. There is an exception to that because there are additional people who are eligible for unemployment under this bill. And that includes self-employed 1099 independent contractor workers, gig workers, and the VEC, because that is not normally a category within the unemployment claims process, is still working on a process to implement their claims. So there is anticipated to be a little bit of an additional delay if someone falls into that category, but they will still be eligible. And we've had people reach out to the office who know that they're eligible because of that, but have yet to have their claims approved by the Virginia Employment Commission. But rest assured, they're working through this as quickly as they can.
Thank you. And that's it's interesting that it's $600 because at 40 hours a week, that's exactly $15 an hour. We've been pushing for $15 an hour minimum wage, and thankfully the Republicans are seeing how appropriate it is to have a minimum benefit of $15. As Elaine pointed out, there are a lot of extra people involved, but you have to give the Virginia Employment Commission a break. They're dealing with, as most states are, about 10 times more applications for unemployment compensation than they've ever received in a week before in history. And so it's going to take them time just to process what they've got. The new applications, how you qualify someone as a gig worker or as an independent contractor will be challenging. So apply for the normal unemployment compensation. But that maxes out at a couple $100, about $300 and some a week. The $600 will be coming in due course. whatever happens, if there's a delay, you're not losing any money. You'll eventually get it because will be backdated to the date of your eligibility. So if it takes a week or two extra, you'll still get the full complement of the money. One of the things we tried to do in this, all of the problems that occur because people are losing their paychecks. They can't pay rent, they can't buy food, they can't pay their bills. If we can maintain their income, we can solve a lot of problems. And that was the point in the sick leave and the enhanced unemployment compensation, because we recognize that most states have woefully inadequate unemployment compensation amounts, including Virginia.
All right, thank you. Head of Norfolk Firefighters, Larry Brown, you are unmuted. And thank you very much for all you and your guys on the front lines.
Thank you. Good morning to you all. My question is to both. I want to know what are we doing on a state level and a national level to ensure not only our hospital workers are getting PPE, but a lot of our first responders from the fire service and both the police service are in desperate need of PPE in order for our men and women to keep protecting our citizens out there, especially in the state of Virginia. And I want to know from both parties what we doing to ensure that the necessary PPE is being given to our first responders in Virginia.
One of the first things we're doing is funding, to make sure that the funding is there so that the PPE can be acquired. We have sent many letters to the administration asking them to do as much under the emergency rules that they can. They finally put them in effect, and they're real slow in getting not only PPEs and the ventilators and the testing. We've been very far behind the curve, and that has adversely affected our ability to get in front of the curve. You notice South Korea and the United States had the first case on the same day. South Korea at this point has had about 174 deaths. The United States is 7,000 and rising, about tenfold every 10 or 15 days. We have to have the PPE because they can't treat patients without it. In addition to the PPEs, one of the things we have been fighting for all through this process and even before is an OSHA standard which deals with infectious disease. There's a regulation that's been pending for about 10 years that's ready to go. All they have to do is have an emergency rule that is enforceable by OSHA to protect workers from infectious disease. Obviously the healthcare workers, but also the first responders, as you've indicated, or other people who are going to work dealing with the public that are exposed to infectious disease, like TSA, even grocery store workers. How do you protect yourself from infectious disease? OSHA has no standard. And one of the things that we've been pushing for is such a standard. We put it in the first bill, they took it out. We put it in the second bill, they took it out. We put it in the third bill, they took it out. And we will continue to push for an enforceable OSHA standard so that people will know exactly how to protect themselves from infectious diseases. When people talk about additional pay or things like that for the heroic work that our healthcare workers and others are performing, they miss the point that if they shouldn't be working in unsafe working conditions, and an enforceable OSHA regulation will be important. Now, one of the problems we've got is we didn't get in front of the curve. They're saying that the ventilators are making 50,000 in 100 days. Well, they should have started that 100 days ago, rather than waiting until they're talking about rationing. I was listening to the radio earlier today. They're talking about rationing ventilators. They're talking about who gets one and who doesn't, and making the possible choices. That should not have taken place. We should have been proactive rather than reactive. And when you're talking about an exponential growth, You're talking about situations where if you go back 20 days, there were about 200 deaths. 10 days ago, about 2,000. Then we got up, then we're going to 7,000 already, going towards, and this is where they get the projection of 100,000 deaths. 100,000, maybe 200,000 deaths, because we're behind the curve, we're not slowing it down. Some of the stay-in-place orders are very inconvenient and ruin the economy, but it's exactly what is needed to try to slow down the exponential growth. But as you said, the equipment needs to be there. People need to be protected, and we'd appreciate it if they would have an enforceable OSHA regulation to require that this protective equipment be available.
All right.
Well, yeah, thanks, Bobby, for that insight on the OSHA side. And I think that, you know, in the current situation, Bobby's right. We've put funding in there, but the equipment, the materials, the PPE is just not available, and that's very difficult. And we've been very much in close contact at the state level with Secretary Moran, with Secretary Kerry. I know that Bobby and I, will all 11 members of Congress, both senators, we have routine calls with the governor and his staff to address these issues. And I know from the firefighters, from the transit workers at ATU, from the sheriffs, I've talked to Joe Barron, I've talked to Ken Stolley, Sheriff Wessels in Accomack County, and you know, everywhere in between, there's a serious lack of this PPE. There's a concern, you know, specifically for COVID to enter into the jails and spread. So thank you, Joe Barron, if you're on. I know that this is a very difficult thing that you're working with and working with your staff to make sure, you know, people living in those close quarters remain safe. And, you know, the supply chain is part of that. And I know that the governor's staff is looking at all means to source material and bring it into Virginia and get it out to these key locations where people are working under the conditions where they need this protection. So we will keep pushing on that. And, you know, FEMA has been activated. The National Disaster Declaration is in place. There is a FEMA district commander for Virginia and this general geographic region. They are also sourcing and getting materials from manufacturers within the region, including some manufacturers within Hampton Roads and within the Commonwealth, who have shipped their manufacturing to produce products, hand sanitizer, masks, things that are very important in this time. So another thing as well is, you know, people who know of sources and supplies and know of means to get some of these materials, we can, you know, connect with the appropriate people at FEMA because they're looking to buy it. The question is just where does it come from? And we have helped connect a couple businesses with the FEMA contacts in order to help expand the supply chain.
All right. Thank you. Roberto Garcia, you are being unmuted. Roberto.
Tell
Yes,
them to
yeah,
unmute. Okay.
I'm here.
Go ahead, we can hear you.
Oh, okay. Hey, good morning to all. And thank you, Charlie, for the opportunity. And so my question, I got two questions. One is, so I just heard that all the residents, all the people of the state should wear face masks when they go out. And so that's probably a great idea. I'm not a doctor, of course, but here's the thing. Down here in the 11th district, we can't get them. I've been looking around very, very hard. That's one of the questions. And so that's, to me, that's an issue just in our district alone. And so I'm self-employed. I'm a small business owner. I do landscape, and I got about 20 customers, and I lost Tesseract, which is a Airbnb company out of Portsmouth with 6 properties in Ocean View. And so I have an EIN number. I do my taxes. And so how does this bill work for me? When I say small, I probably bring in I've been doing this about 3 years to build to this point, probably about $45,000 a year. That's not so big. So how does this work for me?
All right.
Well, what I'd recommend, and we can certainly connect with you, is to talk through how your business is established. You know, you're an LLC, sole proprietor, and what types of programs would be the best specifically for you to apply for, whether it would be for you to personally apply for unemployment or whether for you to try to use the PPP, which is the payroll protection program, in order to actually keep other yourself as self-employed and other employees on your payroll paid during the time. Those are loans that are issued by, it should be expanding to all federally insured, FDIC insured financial lending institutions. The implementation process is slower than we would like, but basically the gist of it is you should be able to walk into your normal bank that you have a banking relationship with, submit the paperwork, get funds through the payroll protection program. And then if you meet the criteria of maintaining a certain percentage of your employees and some other criteria, that all of that loan that you receive would then become a grant, and you would not have to repay that loan. And that could be used for paying your employees for overhead, for rent, for utilities, and other basic expenses to keep your business operating. So that's called the PPP, the Payroll Protection Program. That could be an option for your company, or it could potentially be an option to look at using unemployment for yourself personally as a sole proprietor. But we'd be happy to talk through that with you. And I can make sure that we put the number out here. Let me just grab the best number for anybody online, you know, who wants to reach out to our Virginia Beach office. It's 757-364-7650. 757-364-7650. Also, luria.house.gov is our website. Please sign up for the newsletters on there as well. We are updating information daily, and like I mentioned a few minutes ago, we have a landing page with links to all of this information. And you know, our phones are on, and Bobby's staff is working really hard at this too to help answer questions for people. But I think that's a starting point for you. But we'd be happy to talk through in more detail the specifics with you.
That would be fabulous. I just want to say, you know, when you say your employees, when I say I'm a small business, I have crawled on my hands and knees to pull weeds and cut grass to get to this point. And so I am my only employee, other than sometimes I get big jobs that you got to hire people quick. There's nobody on my books but me. And so that is, you know what I mean? So how does that fit in? For me, that's what I mean when I say small. I am really small, but I get out every day and make something happen.
That is exactly what we were trying to include in this bill and this legislation, was everything from the smallest of business with one employee, sole proprietor, you know, someone who is a 1099 independent contractor for another business, someone who's a gig worker who drives for Uber or Lyft or something similar, you know, all the way up to businesses at the level of up to 500 employees. So, and everything in between. So there should be a solution that's workable within the legislation for your scenario. So we'd love to talk through it with you and see if we can help you find the right option for your business.
Yeah, as Elaine said, you have the small business assistance and the unemployment assistance. We're trying to cover small employees that are independent contractors like yourself. You'd be eligible for unemployment compensation, the $600 a week, and plus whatever earnings, a portion of the earnings that you're losing. That's on the unemployment side, the Virginia Employment Commission, and you need to get in touch with them. She also mentioned the small business pot of money, that the assistance to small business. There's about $10,000 that you can get fairly, it should be fairly straightforward, and you don't have to pay it back if you use it for certain expenses. And so you want to do both. And so for a small business, there's actually unprecedented assistance in terms of where to go, what bank to go to. If you go on the Small Business Administration website, they should have a list of the banks that are participating. You also mentioned the masks. I think the masks are a good idea for three reasons. One, it's well known that they will not protect you from the virus. Unless it is a fairly high quality mask, it will not protect you from the virus, but it will protect others from you. If you sneeze or cough or something, it will protect others from you. And this is important because a lot of people are spreading the virus and don't even know they're infected. This is called it asymptomatic. And so from that point of view, they're good. From another point of view, apparently you're less likely to touch your face if you have a mask on. And that's obviously consistent with many of the recommendations. But I think there's a third impact of people wearing masks. It gives people the idea that something serious is going on. When you walk in the grocery store and people are wearing masks, it just sends the message that things are not normal. That's been the problem with the United States response all along. People aren't taking it seriously. You had people down on the beaches in Florida. You had Liberty University trying to open up. A lot of it is the messaging from the president. We'll be straight. We'll be packing the churches by Easter. It sends a message that it's not serious. And as a direct result, we have been, the exponential growth in the United States has been one of the worst in the world. The fact that people are wearing masks, I think, will convey a message that something is going on, something serious, and you need to stay home. You need to have the social distancing, and we need to get ahead of this. And you can't do it if people aren't taking the situation seriously. And I think masks could help send that message.
Okay, and I'm actually trying to upgrade our account. We have so many questions. We're running down to the last 5 minutes. And on the fly, I'm trying to upgrade the account to get more minutes. But if it doesn't happen, we may want to try and reschedule another one of these things real quick, because like I said, the questions are everywhere. I do want to point out Councilwoman McClellan is on the call. Treasurer Don Hester's on the call. And if we can get in a question, Andrea, I'll unmute you here. Where'd you go?
Here I
There
am.
you are. Oh, Andrea, A-N-D.
Yep.
Okay, there you go.
Hey, Charlie. Good morning. I appreciate our representatives being with us. Just a quick plug, if you haven't yet gone to norfolk.gov/elections, you can request your absentee ballot there. It's very simple. We've gotten all of ours in our house right now, so thank you for anybody who's done that, and please do that today. Congressman Scott and Congresswoman Luria, from the local perspective, if you all are considering a fourth stimulus bill, which I hope you are, I would implore you to consider providing direct assistance to the municipalities. Right now, if you are a municipality of less than 500,000, which is every city and county in the Hampton Roads region, you won't receive any direct assistance. It's all going through the state. So fortunately, we've got a great relationship with the state, but that's just, it's onerous. And to the extent that you're able to, I would ask that. And then the second point that we haven't touched on today is the extraordinary problems that the digital divide are causing our kids. And so when we talk about broadband, it's often talked about from a rural perspective, and certainly that's an issue. But in urban areas like Norfolk, we are seeing a huge problem where our kids just aren't having access to education. And I feel like we have almost a lost generation right now. So when you're considering broadband investment, we're going to need hotspots and devices for our kids at Norfolk Public Schools as soon as possible. So thank you. That's it for now.
2 minutes.
Thank you. The Education and Labor Committee is working on a package dealing with equity problems. As you've suggested, the 500,000 level in cities has been roundly criticized by everybody outside of a high population area. There are a lot of things that we're going to be doing coming up. Pensions haven't been mentioned. Pension funds are going to be in deep difficulty. We need to put the family part of family leave back in. Let me put my district number out there, 757-380-1000. We're having a tele-town hall next week. I think it's Monday. So that information will be going out. And I want to thank all the Norfolk Democrats for all the signatures you got. You got us signatures. So I'm on the ballot, and I am the nominee by default. Thank you very much. Wait a minute.
Yeah, thank you too.
My staff just told me it's Tuesday at 7. Thank you. Thank you, David.
All right. And again, looks like I'm unsuccessful in doing an instant upgrade to the account, so we are going to be gone in a minute and a half. I do want to put out one little shout out. Cindy Cutler from Norfolk is in Vietnam, and she's joining us from Vietnam. So we have a distance thing.
Hi,
going.
Cindy.
But anyway, if you want to wrap it up, Elaine and Bobby, about 30 seconds each, and let's do another one of these things quick, and I'll have more time. Elaine, you want to wrap?
Sure. Well, thank you to everybody who joined us this morning. Thanks for your very thoughtful questions. And I know we didn't get to everyone's questions, so I will share our office number again. It's 757-364-7650. 364-7650. So please reach out at any time. We would love to hear from you. We'd love to be helpful. We have a whole team of caseworkers, as does Bobby, to help answer these questions, point you in the right direction, and do what we can to help in this very trying time. And, thank you to all of you. You're always there behind us. Like Bobby said, thanks for helping with the petition signatures. And, November is only 7 months off. So we are obviously laser focused on everything to do with the COVID crisis, but we can't forget that November is going to come up quickly, and we are definitely appreciative of your support, past and future, and helping make sure that we can go back to Washington and continue the work that we've been doing for the community. So thank you.
All right, let's do one of these things again. I'll be in touch, and I'm sorry we ran out of